In a distant kingdom, where magic flowed as freely as rivers of silver, there lived an extraordinarily vain emperor. He resided in a crystal castle, whose walls caught and reflected light in a kaleidoscope of colors. This emperor had an unparalleled passion for beautiful clothing, and spent his days searching for extravagant outfits that could enchant his subjects. One day, two mysterious weavers arrived in the city, promising the emperor the most magnificent clothing ever seen. This piece, however, had a magical secret. Only individuals who were extremely wise and fit for their positions could see it. Fascinated by the prospect of such clothing, the emperor immediately summoned the weavers, eager to add yet another spectacular piece to his collection. The emperor, curious and vain, could not resist the temptation of owning such a special outfit. The weavers began to work on their empty looms, pretending to weave the wonderful cloth with invisible threads. Day after day they worked on nothing, but everyone in the city was eager to see the magical creation. Word of the incredible outfit spread quickly, and people from neighboring villages began traveling to the city, eager to witness the fashion miracle. The streets were filled with buzz and expectation, with fervent discussions about the appearance and shine of clothing that only the intelligent and worthy could see. The emperor, increasingly impatient, sent daily emissaries to check on the weavers' progress, and they returned with elaborate accounts of a fabric so delicate and splendid that it seemed to defy reality itself. Every detail was meticulously invented, from the unparalleled softness to the intricate patterns that changed color depending on the light. The emissaries, trained in the art of oratory, described how the fabric transformed under different conditions, reflecting the colors of the sunset and the brightness of the stars. They told stories of how the touch of the fabric evoked feelings of calm and serenity, almost as if it had magical properties. The weavers, skilled and cunning, knew how to manipulate the emperor's expectations, promising a masterpiece that would make history. Every day, the emperor's curiosity and anxiety grew, fueled by the dazzling reports. The entire court murmured about the project, and the people anxiously awaited the moment when they would see the final work. The expectation was so great that poets and artists began to create works inspired by the imaginary fabric, perpetuating the legend even before its real existence. The court was ecstatic, afraid to admit that they could see nothing, but amazed at the prospect of such an extraordinary piece of clothing. Rumors spread throughout the kingdom about this ethereal masterpiece, attracting nobles and curious people from distant lands. Court artists began to design clothes based on the descriptions, and poets composed verses extolling the indescribable beauty of the fabric. Merchants tried to discover the secrets behind this supposed wonder, while alchemists theorized about magic involved in the process. The city was in a collective frenzy, where expectation and illusion mixed, fueling an atmosphere of fascination and mystery that enveloped everyone, from the humblest servant to the most powerful noble. The news quickly spread beyond the kingdom's borders, capturing the imagination of many. At fairs and markets, it was the main topic of conversation, generating speculation and exaggerated stories. In taverns, troubadours sang about the enchanted garment, while card players bet on who would be next to claim to have seen the magical piece. The king, curious and pressured by the incessant murmurs, decided to organize a large parade to display the clothing in front of everyone. Grandiose preparations began, with streets being decorated and celebrations planned. At the same time, spies from neighboring kingdoms infiltrated the court, determined to discover the truth or perhaps steal the secret of creation for their own monarchs. The tension was growing, and the line between reality and fantasy became increasingly blurred, as the kingdom prepared for an event that promised to be legendary. When the weavers finally announced that the garment was ready, the emperor, anxious and curious, went to see it. Upon entering the room, he looked around, expecting to see a magnificent piece, but he could see nothing. The air was empty, and he felt somewhat perplexed. However, afraid of appearing foolish and incompetent before his subjects and the weavers, he smiled widely and praised the beauty of the invisible garment, commenting on the intricate details and exceptional quality of the fabric that supposedly could not be seen by anyone who was incapable or stupid. The courtiers, fearing they would be seen as inept, also began to praise the outfit, making elaborate comments about the vibrant colors and impeccable cut. Word of the clothing's magnificence quickly spread throughout the kingdom, and everyone prepared for the grand parade where the emperor would display his new attire. His ministers, who were at his side, felt the same social pressure, and, equally afraid of looking foolish and being judged by the emperor and other courtiers, they also began to praise the invisible garment. Each described the garment's supposed qualities with increasing enthusiasm, creating a chorus of false praise that echoed off the palace walls. This surreal and bizarre scenario, where everyone pretended to see something non-existent, created an atmosphere of collective self-deception, a perfect portrait of vanity and fear of the truth. On the day of the great parade, the emperor put on his new clothes and went out to show his subjects. People, equally afraid of looking foolish, applauded and praised the invisible garment. The emperor, with his chest inflated with pride, waved everywhere, believing that he looked stunning in his attire. Trumpets sounded loudly and colorful banners swayed in the wind, creating an atmosphere of celebration and reverence. Crowds lined the streets, each face masking disbelief with smiles and gestures of approval. However, a child in the crowd, innocent and honest, shouted, "But the emperor is naked!" The statement echoed in the air, initially causing an awkward silence, which soon turned into uneasy murmurs. The emperor's advisors exchanged nervous glances as he, still trying to maintain his composure, began to realize the harsh reality. The magic of the moment was broken, revealing the fragility of collective vanity and deception. The people began to murmur, and soon everyone was laughing and pointing, realizing the truth. The emperor, although embarrassed, continued his parade with his head held high, because he knew that admitting his mistake was the first step to becoming a wiser and more humble ruler. As he advanced, a young poet in the crowd, inspired by the emperor's courage, began reciting verses extolling the importance of honesty and humility. The poet's words touched the hearts of those present, and a new wave of respect and admiration for the emperor emerged among the people. The emperor's advisors, who had previously flattered him with falsehoods, were removed, giving way to wise and just people who sought the good of the kingdom. In the palace, the emperor implemented new laws based on truth and transparency, encouraging his people to be honest and value knowledge. Schools were founded, libraries opened, and artists, philosophers and scientists were invited to share their knowledge. The streets of the kingdom were buzzing with intellectual discussions, and the constant learning environment generated innovations in various areas. The kingdom flourished like never before, becoming a beacon of justice and wisdom. Visitors from distant lands came to see the stunning transformation with their own eyes and learn from the example of this enlightened government. And so, the emperor learned to value truth and wisdom above vanity, governing his kingdom with justice and humility. He not only enacted laws, but lived by them, being a model of integrity for his subjects. Commerce prospered under his fair leadership, the arts flourished, and science made significant discoveries that improved everyone's lives. His story has become a legend, told from generation to generation, reminding everyone that true greatness lies in the courage to be honest and the willingness to learn from one's mistakes. The emperor's wisdom was reflected in every decision, and his ability to listen to the advice of sages and scholars meant that his reign was characterized by lasting peace and continuous progress. Under his rule, the kingdom prospered, and his legacy endured, illuminating the hearts and minds of many for centuries. Future generations found inspiration in the libraries he built, the treatises on philosophy and science he encouraged to write, and the works of art he commissioned. The emperor's name became synonymous with justice and wisdom, and his lessons became an essential part of education throughout the kingdom. Monarchs of other nations sought to emulate his style of governance, and historians have celebrated him as one of the greatest leaders the world has ever seen. The transformation he initiated continued to reverberate through the ages, ensuring that his vision of a world guided by truth and knowledge would never be forgotten. In addition to improvements in educational and cultural structures, the emperor also encouraged the practice of sustainable agriculture, and the creation of technologies that respected the environment. Advanced irrigation projects were implemented, ensuring abundant harvests and the well-being of the people. Cities became greener, with public parks and gardens that promoted the physical and mental well-being of citizens. Public health was strengthened, with well-equipped hospitals and doctors trained in the best medical practices. The emperor frequently held open assemblies where any citizen could express their concerns and suggestions, reinforcing public participation in government. He believed that the true strength of a kingdom lay in the unity and collaboration of its people. In recognition of his commitment to truth and justice, poets and writers composed works that celebrated his wisdom and leadership. His reign became a model studied by scholars and leaders around the world, who sought to understand the principles that led to such a prosperous and peaceful period. This legacy of knowledge and justice became the foundation of a kingdom that continued to flourish even after his death, with his successors committed to following his teachings and preserving the values he held dear. The impact of his rule was so profound that, centuries later, the kingdom was still remembered as the golden age of justice and wisdom, an eternal example of enlightened and benevolent leadership.